Hi, I know I have been inconsistent, but when duty calls, we show up. And it finally came to be that I felt that it was the right moment to uh, reappear with a collective reading. And this is coming right on the tail end of the full moon in Capricorn. And so while I like to use the lunar cycle as the reference point, I'm just going to call this Cancer season. And, it'll lead us into that new moon in Cancer. So we're feeling it, right? It's Cancer season. Excuse me while I make myself comfortable. It is the season of um understanding how we feel about ourselves. Of course, we go through Taurus, we go through Aries, where we individuate and we feel that need to define who we are. Then we go into Taurus, where we have to find our value in what that is. And then beyond that, we go into Gemini, where we pursue the curiosity of that process in the external world. And eventually we arrive in Cancer, which requires of us to go inward, but also to process things from the subconscious perspective. And of course, depending on what's going on in your individual chart, that can represent something that's either extremely edifying or it could be tearing something down. The full moon in Capricorn that we just experienced was really the opportunity for us to once again delve into the subconscious patterns that we may have been retentive of regarding our victimhood mentality stemming from childhood trauma, inner child discomfort, disharmony. And so much of the last, um, certainly from my perspective, I could see that since Aries season, this was the year that I think we all consciously became more aware of our inner child and started to nurture this relationship in a more tangible way. And therefore, um, maybe in a certain way, that also means that we were able to show up more as parents. And of course, Cancer is also the sign of the mother. So it's about mothering ourselves, it's about showing up in that maternal energy, whether you're male or female. We all have aspects of that within ourselves, and we mirror our parental conditioning. I was very lucky. I did receive a lot of love from my mother. Um, of course, with many flaws and many uh, everybody has their own journey, and as I've shared before, my parents were extremely emotionally immature and physically immature when they had a family, and so therefore, I've come to the ability to not hold them responsible for their transgressions from a time when they did not know better. Sometimes I question why um, they didn't learn more in the process. But in my case, my mother has always had an open heart. And so, therefore, it's always been possible for us to navigate um, these issues tangibly. Um, and that's also enabled me to show up as a better parent towards myself. Um, But I also understand that sometimes in Cancer season, for me, and I'm sure this is the same for you, there are moments where I feel like I want to reach out to have that m mommy hug. I want somebody to take care of me. And of course, that's generally an invitation from the universe for us to show up in our lives and do the hard work that is also being exacerbated by Saturn going retrograde at the end of this month on the 30th of June. So when Saturn goes retrograde, of course, we've already been through the degrees that it will go retrograde over, but in Pisces. But retrogrades are always the opportunity to deepen our understanding of the experiences that we've been having. So when it comes to Saturn, it is, a lot of people like to focus primarily on the idea of restriction around Saturn, which I don't really believe is what Saturn is all about. If you actually even look at the planetary mass that Saturn is, um, um, it's a giant planet that who its gravitational force is what has built itself from um, ice and rock, um, and it's just kind of grown enormous. And of course, with those beautiful what we perceive as rings around Saturn, almost like a protective belt. It's like it's its own asteroid belt around the planet, but it's ice. Um, if I have my facts correct, which I'm pretty sure I do. Um, so when you're thinking about that, what does that represent? I mean, it's an enormous power. That gravitational pull is about power. So everything that Saturn brings into our life is the opportunity for us to mold our reality into something more effective, more potent, more sturdy, more dependable. And so, as I've grown older, and I think it is normal that we all kind of experience this transition in our understanding of the planets, Saturn has become much more of a friend. Whereas before it used to terrify me, especially because I remember when I first became more knowledgeable about astrology, or at least had more of a curiosity beyond the idea of a, horoscope, um, and a star sign characteristic to decide whether or not I was compatible with somebody. My Saturn return was my was what um, triggered a lot of awakening in me, and I became terrified of it because I had a very intense Saturn return, um, as many people do. But I can laugh about it now because I mean, honestly, oh my God, I was a mess. But and I can look back on that with fondness now, all these years later, and we'll see about how I feel when I have my next Saturn return, which fortunately is still a decade away. Um, so Pisces again is very aligned with the victim mentality, and I don't want to limit Pisces to the victim mentality because I am in a 19-degree Pisces moon, which is a master degree, and it's also, it's about spiritual enlightenment, the pursuit of some spiritual enlightenment, and Piscean energy is full of uh, portals to understanding that other signs are not privy to in many ways. So there's great power in Pisces, but when Pisces is not um, when Pisces is in its detriment, it can really bring out all the aspects of victimhood in us. Um, there's a reason why Christianity is symbolized with a fish, you know. Um, it is about emotion, but it's about emotional flagellation. It's about emotional self-flagellation. It's about emotional victimhood. It's about needing um, uh, an authority over us, the Capricorn authority over us, in order for us to know how to navigate our Cancerian and our Piscean and our Scorpionic um, water sign dynamics. Of course, Scorpio goes from the underworld to the great expanse of the unknowable. So, um, so it's a graduation towards that. Again, I don't like to be hierarchical because obviously it's a circle, all of it, the wheel. So it all comes back around. But there is a sense of progress in that wheel. And I think every time we come back around, there is something more that is perceived, something more is integrated. And so these retrogrades allow for us to really get the lessons about things that need to be solidified in order for our futures to be beneficial to us, emotionally, spiritually, materially, physically, on all levels. So um, that is my brief overview of current astrology of note, and I shall be doing my very best to show up throughout Cancer season. But Saturn going retrograde also means hard work. So you may be in a position where there's a likelihood that you may already see it, that in the next couple of weeks, there's an invitation for you to start doing some challenging work, should I say, work that is either new or innovative or shifting dynamics, something that will force you to embolden yourself to reinforce um, your own authority. So yeah, let's look at some cards. What? Why didn't I pull an animal? Oh, I can do that afterwards. But I guess we will then start with should we start with our Osho cards? Sure. These two cards came out. These are receptivity and healing. So I'm going to read receptivity first. Oh, I'm a weirdo. I don't need my glasses for reading, but I do need them, well, for distance. I certainly don't need them to see myself on this camera, but I woke up very early this morning and frankly enjoy having glasses on to hide my tired looking eyes, but who cares, right? Why can't I find this right now? Where am I? Oh, here. Okay. It is the Queen of Water, Queen of Cups, 58. I'm glad we got some cups energy with the Asha Zen cards, because our actual tarot cards, there's literally nearly all fire except for one pentacle. So we'll discuss and one sword. We will discuss that because it's very intense. Okay. You know how I like to hold the card up so that you don't look at me reading. I don't know why I'm self-conscious of being seen reading. Receptivity represents the feminine, receptive quality of water and of the emotions. Her arms are extended upwards to receive, and she is completely immersed in the water. She has no head, no busy and aggressive mind to hinder her pure receptivity. And as she is filled, she is continuously emptying herself, overflowing. Oh, you can still see me, damn it. And receiving more. The lotus pattern or matrix that emerges from her represents the perfect harmony of the universe that becomes apparent when we are in tune with it. The Queen of Water brings a time of unboundedness and gratitude for whatever life brings without any expectations or demands. Neither duty or thought of merit or reward are important. Sensitivity, intuition, and compassion are the qualities that shine forth now, dissolving all the obstacles that keep us separate from each other and from the whole. I'm only reading the commentary on the card for these cards this week. And the other one, healing, healing. Well, that's interesting. That's the King of Cups. This is very interesting because we also got the King of Wands and the Queen of Wands and Page of Wands in our reading. So, and we got the Queen of Wands twice. So, I don't know what the hell's going on. We're gonna have to figure that out together, aren't we? But there's definitely some energy here of yin yang and male female, um, divine masculine, divine feminine, um, coming into union and therefore empowerment. Um, oh, here we go. Okay, card. It is time when the deeply buried wounds of the past are coming to the surface, ready and available to be healed. The figure in this card is naked, vulnerable, open to loving touch of existence. The aura around his body is full of light, and the quality of relaxation, caring, and love that surrounds him is dissolving his struggle and suffering. Lotuses of light appear on his body and around the subtle energy bodies that healers say surround each of us. In each of us, these subtle layers appear. No, in each of these subtle layers appears a healing crystal or pattern. When we are under the healing influence of the King of Water, we are no longer hiding from ourselves or others. In this attitude of openness and acceptance, we can be healed and help others to be healthy and whole. And I think that's what it is, of course. It's like when we let go of victimhood, it doesn't mean that we don't acknowledge the um the origin story, the difficulties, the whatever, however you want to describe it. But we have understood that they serve us as light workers, light beings, as spiritual beings having a human experience. We require that kind of frequency evolution in order for us to show up better, more present, more compassionate. Um, and of course, ultimately, that can only serve us to be empowered in what we do for um, our higher purpose. You know, however that manifests, and everything that we do is in some way contributing to our higher purpose, our job, you know, whatever it is. Because as we improve, as we become more powerful spiritually, we are able to show up where whatever we're doing, whether we are, you know, I don't even know what I was going to say, you know, a lifeguard or a cheese specialist, you know, it's how you're interacting with other people, you're elevating their experience, and therefore doing the divine work, right? Ow, it's still hot. Um, well, I did say, well, I'm going to do it in that order. From the, I don't even remember what this deck is called. I should remember. It's like a kind of a fantasy deck in terms of the um, representations. But I pulled three cards to sort of give our current narrative from this deck, which we got the Emperor, the Queen of Wands, and they're really glossy, sorry, and the Page of Wands in that order. So this archetype flow basically says we show up. The Emperor is about knowing what our empire is and what we want to rule over. So there's obviously been some kind of a shift in the dynamic of how we see our legacy. And when we say legacy, of course, everybody always gets caught up in the idea of what a legacy is for a person of fame and renown. Most of us are not that. So it's important to remember that our legacy is the direction that we take our life in terms of being constructive, what we want to construct for ourselves, what we want to build, what we want to experience. And that can be the idea of how you want to spend your developing your career, to how you wish to spend your final years, to the kind of relationships that you want to have. Perhaps you just want to be invested in yourself and live a solitary life. Whatever it is, that's the vision that you have. And the trickery of life, and that's what always what I struggle with most is that I'll get personal and I'll be a little bit more conversational for a moment. I put those glasses on, that way I feel less exposed. My vision of my empire is one in which I am able to be effective while also financially successful in what I do for a living, and having a community that I can be invested in and that sees me for my value, and having potentially a companion in my life who also is able to mirror something back to me um, by seeing my worth, and in turn me being able to reciprocate that. And and then I have my peripherals, like that I will have like a um, eventually buy myself a property somewhere in probably in the south of France, rurally. And I hate to say all of this because it's what my father did, but something along those lines. And have my books, have the ability to write, to make music, to garden, to work off the land, whatever it is, and hopefully have some form of community in doing so. But I've told you all that not to bore you with the details, but to tell you that none of those things exist in my life. I mean, I do not have any of those things, and I've freaked out about it quite a lot over the last, um, period of time, long period of time that I was on sabbatical, and hopefully that's about to come to an end very soon. It looks, well, it pretty much is going to, but there's a couple of potential paths. So one I'm much more excited about than the other, and one pays a lot more than the other two. But we'll see. Who knows? I don't want to even go there because everything's been so Uranian and crazy, and things shift in an instant. And one minute I think I'm going down one road, and the next minute everything explodes, and then it goes some other direction, or it goes stagnant or whatever. So I don't want to even talk about that stuff. But in the emperor planning, the strategic kind of mindset of my life, I'm nowhere near any of those things. The reality is I live in the fifth most expensive city in the world. There's no way that I'm going to be able to save enough money to be able to do the things that I hope to do in that legacy. It's a very isolating city, so it's very unlikely that I am going to um, find the things that I've just spoken of here. Um, my closest friend lives on the other side of the world from me, and I have a handful of, well, I say a handful, tiny handful of friends here in LA who, are steadfast, but I don't really necessarily have a lot in common with them in terms of my life. So community is not really um, the the driving force of those things. Much of what my life is, my spiritual practices and things, these people have no interest in. They don't even see me for that. They see me as, a middle-aged person who has not um, necessarily done well for themselves financially. That's how people look at people in a place like Los Angeles. Maybe it's the same everywhere. I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't live everywhere, but yeah, it's not. There's a lot of restrictions on that level. So the reason I'm going into such detail, aside from the fact that it was probably therapeutic for me to verbalize that, is that you know that's what we're thinking of. That's, because I've had to think about finding work, obviously the emperor energy is a big part of that. It's like, what am I going to be able to do with this? How am I going to be able to use this towards my legacy building? And the answer to that is the Queen of Wands and the Page of Wands. So the Queen of Wands is self-confidence. It's what does the Queen of Wands have in her empowerment? She is um, a go-getter, but she is a go-getter without needing to pander, without needing to um, question herself. I don't mean in an arrogant way. I mean in a way of self-knowledge and and then the Page of Wands is the playfulness that is required, in order for that fire to stay lit, in order for that fire to stay um, uh, useful to our growth of our empire. Um, we don't have self-confidence, we don't have drive without having playfulness at our core, and playfulness as in playing with our inner child, knowing that in order to live, in order to work, we have to play. We have to nurture ourselves with the child within and that child's needs, which I now see why I did the reading what I did. I have the Sufi Wisdom Oracle card that I placed next to those cards. I have no idea what I was doing, but they make sense now. Look at what that is. Time to play. Make time to dance and play. Oh, where's the book? I shall read Time to Play. A time to work, a time to play. I think I'll die another day. It's not my time to go. Do you know what that is? Time to play. Make time to dance and play. Dance when you're broken open. Dance if you've torn the bandage off. Dance in the middle of the fighting. Dance in your blood. Dance when you're perfectly free. Rumi. Rumi comes to remind you that play and developing a more playful attitude are not only enjoyable, but essential to good mental health. This change plays an important role in building strong, healthy relationships by bringing people closer to you, creative, creating positive bonds, and resolving conflict and disagreements. If you are looking for new relationships, playfulness and humor can be effective tools, not just for attracting others, but also to help overcome insecurity and feelings of embarrassment that might have arisen in your past encounters. Oh, dear one, do not limit your own joy by being self-conscious and overly concerned about how you'll look and sound to others when you attempt to be lighthearted. There is no reason to be worried about being playful. Oh, sorry, my nose is itching so much. There's no reason to be worried that being playful will make you look ridiculous. Reclaim your inner child by setting aside regular quality time to have fun. The more lighthearted you are, the easier it becomes. Sprinkle your life with more fun things that make you lose yourself in the moment, beloved. You need to play, especially when you believe you are too busy. Why not start now? The great Oracle Rumi encourages you to be in love with life no matter what you are doing. When you remember to dance, you feel joy. Plan to do something playful, be spontaneous, set aside your inhibitions, and do something fun that you haven't done for a long time. Mantra: I am in love with life. There is always time to play, always time for fun, always time for love. A gentle reminder. Oh my gosh. It really is only when I do these readings I get these like really itchy. I guess somebody's playing with me. Ugh. It's make me look a fool on camera while I rub my nose until it's red. Um, mm, okay. So then, so that's our archetype inner world, what we are creating. And then the next cards are going to be the outer world. In other words, what we are experiencing in the outside world. And it tells a little arc story. So it's really coming from like the past, present into um, future energy. And it's very, very interesting and very simple because basically all of these cards are, well, first of all, we've got plenty of new starts because we have the Ace of Pentacles and we have the Ace of Swords. So the Ace of Pentacles, the Ace of Swords, I took to clarify the Ace of Pentacles. The Ace of Pentacles is any kind of significant opportunity that allows for us to build our legacy. Generally, pentacles represent material and tangible manifestations in our world, and we perceive those as opportunities. So, what opportunities are coming into your world or have recently come into your world? Be on the lookout because it's clearly a time where that is very intense and rich, um, with possibility. And then the Ace of Swords is clarifying that what has brought this richness of opportunity is clarity of mind. We have finally realigned our mindset, our philosophy, our truth to, we've fine-tuned it to something that jumpstarts our ability to show up with not necessarily more ambition, but certainly more determination and definition. So there's also a strong element with the pentacles of understanding that it's about potential and not about results, if that makes sense. We move from there into the King of Wands, and King of Wands clarified by the Magician. So again, seeing as we already had the Queen of Wands directly above that in the same line of the time progression, this is the divine counterpart of the Queen of Wands energy. So again, the King of Wands is in his authority when it comes to his ideas, his inspiration, his drive, his passion, and his knowingness of what keeps the fire going, whatever that means for you. I'm not going to define that because that's very personal. And the clarification of the Magician shows that we have a very our intuition is entirely driven at this time by the capacity of the Magician within, which means that our potency for manifestation is up here, and so let's channel that into that fire, because we need it, because we've got progress to make, because the next couple of months are opportunities for growth and expansion before we reach the fall, when things, in all honesty, astrologically, I am not 100% sure how to interpret, the astrology of the time, but it does get way more complicated after September. So this is a time for this empire building and these taking advantage of planting these seeds, of growing these new aces into something solid and dependable so that we can sustain ourselves, when chaos ensues, as it is bound to do, just from a logical perspective, if you have your eyes open and you're looking at the crazy world that we live in. And then we had justice as our outcome, clarified by the Queen of Wands again. So it's the simplest reading. It's just basically all about staying inspired, staying driven, staying self-confident, trusting the process, taking advantage of any opportunities that are given to us, and being confident in our process, and knowing that subsequently we will be served our just desserts, and that these things it's like the wheel is turning, but it is like a snowball at the same time of building on this self-confidence, building on this self-knowledge, building on this fire within, and it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing because we are doing that healing. And because being in the Queen of Wands energy also means receptivity, as we had from our Osho cards. So it is that openness to receive inspiration. And as much as we have the fire within, we have to express that fire in order for it to spread, right? That is all I'm going to do with this reading. We're leaving it there. I loved it. I feel like it was to the point. I don't know how long this was, but long enough. I wish you an amazing remainder of this Cancer season. Maybe I'll get back on for a new moon message. It depends on how things transpire in my life in the next week or two. But I look forward to seeing you whenever that is. And as you can see, it is summer. I would like say, what is out? The sun's out, guns out, but I don't exactly have guns. Well, they're not. I look really skinny like that, don't I? But I do actually have muscle. It's just, it's like yoga muscle. Anyway, I love you. I wish you many, many blessings, and I will see you very soon. And may we all walk forth in love and peace.